Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bandito Resale 25 Days of Holiday Resale Deals. My name is Justin, and today we are going to be covering retro and vintage video games. Now, just a little note before we get started, as you can see, the first one already up on the screen here is that a lot of these games are going to be graded, which can cost hundreds of dollars. With that being said, a lot of these games, if you were able to find them even for a couple $100, you could pay 300 and you'd still make an insane profit. So let's go ahead and go through just a few of the most valuable retro video games. So starting off first, we have this copy of Super Mario Brothers for Nintendo, the original Super Mario Brothers game. This was a 5.5 graded copy, and it sold for $5,999.99, so $6,000. These are pictures of the actual item, and as you can see, a 5 by 5 grading from Wada is not the best. It's not in the best condition, but still sold for $6,000. All right, moving on to the next, and that is another classic Nintendo game, and this is Pinball. This particular version of Pinball is brand new sealed. The seal still hasn't been broken. As you can see on the picture there, the official Nintendo sticker still intact. This is not a graded copy, so proof you don't necessarily have to have it graded. Most place you'd be most likely to find this would most likely be an estate sale. Someone who had a Nintendo system and never played it, and it was just packed away in an attic, and the grandparents are the ones that kept it, and nothing ever happened to it, that kind of thing. This one sold for $8,601 on auction, an insane amount of money for a very, very basic game. All right. Moving on from regular Nintendo, we move up to the Super Nintendo, and this is an authentic SNES Final Fight guy in the original box. This is graded by Wata, a 7.0 grading, made in Japan, retail release, matching components. You see they put their notes there on that. On the back, they actually do show your notes of why they chose the grade that they chose. So the box was at a 7.5, the cartridge was at a 7. Overall, it was a 7, but the manual was a 6.5, and it gives you some of the game details. So that's kind of cool that they do that. This particular game sold for $8,500 plus shipping. Moving on to the next game from Super Nintendo, we have this Knights of the Round. And I remember playing this game when I was a kid. I actually had this. I don't know if the ungraded copy or the not graded copy that's been opened has any value, but if you can find it sealed, it's definitely worth having graded. This one was graded by VGA. As you can see, their ratings are a little bit different. This one got an 85 plus. 1994 game, sold for $5,999.99 with free shipping. All right, moving on to the next piece here is we have this Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64. And that is the game. As you can see there, it was graded by Wata at a 9.2. This particular game sold for $995 plus $20 shipping. A little bit lower of a profit, but again, if you found this at, say, an estate sale and they wanted 50 bucks for it, pay a couple hundred to get it graded, still making quite a bit of money. All right, moving on, one of my favorite games from the Nintendo 64, GoldenEye. And this one was brand new, factory sealed, was not graded. It was just the new sealed copy that still had the hang tag on it. This one sold for $6,600 plus $9.99 shipping, and it sold at auction. On to the next is one that probably won't surprise most people because Pokemon is known to hold a lot of value when it comes to their Game Boy games. This is the red version from the original Game Boy, rated at a 7.5 by CGC. This one sold for $4,327 plus $11 shipping. Moving on to the next is we have another Legend of Zelda, but this one would have been for the Game Boy Advance in 2005. Definitely retro. Usually vintage is 20 years, so it's coming right up on being retro and vintage. This copy sold for $2,500 with free shipping. And like I said, it was graded by WADA at an 8.5. Moving on to the next, there were not a ton of Sega Genesis games that had a ton of value, but this is one that does, and that is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist. This is a graded copy from WADA at a 9.8, and this one sold for insane money, $10,499 plus free shipping. So yeah, if you see this game out, even if it's used, pick it up because this game is worth some crazy money. Probably because I don't think there were all that many of it made. All right, moving on to the next is another Sega Genesis game that had some value to it, and this is one that I think most of us who had a Genesis in our childhood played, and that is Mortal Kombat. This is a new sealed copy graded by WADA at a 9.6, sold for $1,828 plus $15 expedited shipping. This is a game that I've actually come across new at just a random thrift store. So it is possible. Unfortunately, this is before I was reselling full time and I didn't realize the value that it had, and I may have opened it and played it. So womp womp, big loss there. But still, this is one to keep an eye out for. All right, now we are moving on to the Nintendo GameCube, and this is the Pokemon box game. It's the Ruby and Sapphire editions, graded by WADA at a 9.8. This sold for $3,615.53 plus $15.95 shipping. Sticking on with our theme of Pokemon and Mario, which are two of the highest value franchises that you're going to see retain their value throughout all these retro games, we have Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube. This is a sealed version of this game, sold for $1,725 plus $11.45 expedited shipping. This particular copy, as you can see, is graded, and it was graded at a 90 plus by VGA. All right, moving on to the next. And we are going to go back in time a little bit to the Atari 2600. Not a lot of these Atari games are still out there that are sealed. You'll definitely find them unsealed from time to time. But this sealed copy of Donkey Kong, rated at a 7.5 by WADA, sold for $2,248 plus $11.99 in shipping. And sticking with that Atari 2600 theme, we have this 1983 game, Chase the Chuck Wagon. Whatever the heck that is, never seen it and never played it, but this one's graded at an 8.5 by WADA, sold for 2,225 plus 15.95 shipping. All right, so those are all the games that in my head I think of as retro and vintage, but the Nintendo Wii has gotten pretty old at this point, and there are a couple of Wii games with some value. So the first one is going to be this Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, sold for $750 plus $14 expedited shipping. This graded copy by WADA at 9.8. This one you may be a little bit easier to find just because it's a little bit newer, but with the grading and stuff, it's going to be a little bit lower of a profit. And finally, we have a game that I personally have sold. I don't know why this one says $21.99. It didn't when I pulled up the original thing. But this is Super Mario Galaxy. A used copy of it goes for about $22. Let me pull something up here, though. I purchased this game new in the package with a Nintendo Wii lot that I bought with a bunch of games. That particular Wii lot sold for, or was sold to me for about 40 bucks. I sold just Super Mario Galaxy for $100. It was ungraded at the time. Uh, and now looking back on it, I kind of wish that I had had it graded. But now you guys can see how I pull these up. We filter by sold and we only look at sold items. Looks like this VGA one rated at a 90 plus sold for $700. But then the next one down sold for $200. This was a graded one by CGC, a 9.6 for 136.27. I sold my copy for 99 without getting it graded. So now that I actually go back and look through these, I'm pretty happy about what I got out of it. But all of that being said, you absolutely can find this game sealed still. It was a popular game, and if you are going to do that, I highly recommend not putting it on auction because then this will happen. This person sold it for $64. I listed mine for $99.99, set it to buy it now, and it eventually sold. So that's what I would recommend doing for that particular game. All right, so that is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoy videos like this, give this one a like and hit that subscribe button down below, and we will see you tomorrow.